amazing, the incredible wife, Amanda Robbins. Today, we're talking about the three traits that distinguish a true team player versus someone who's just more individualistically focused on themselves. We actually have a quiz about this. Where's the best place people can go to find this quiz?
I
Should they
think if
send
they
us a
can
direct
DM you,
message?
then we can send it to them.
Cool. What should they DM me?
Team player quiz.
If you send me a direct message that says team player quiz, we will send you a link that you can go take this quiz and find out if you are more of a team player or more individualistically focused. A few things that stood out to me when I thought this through of what really sets apart someone. The first thing, just really simple, is a team player prioritizes collaboration and the success of the team over individual accomplishments. They're more likely to share credit for success and look for ways to support other people's contributions versus someone who's self-focused focuses more on their individual achievements and recognition. They may not work they may work in silos and prioritize tasks or projects that benefit them personally, even if it's at the expense of the team's goals overall. And so, really simply, I'm going to start by throwing this in the chat box so y'all can see it. Oh, might be too big. But the concept of which one do you fall into? I'm going to go back to my wife for this. Where do you fall in that, love?
As far as a team player or an individual player?
Yeah.
I'm a super team player. What do you think?
I think you're a team player as well. So as a team player, what I'd love to know, what causes you to focus on collaboration so much? What's the source? So if we were trying to find more team players, I'd love to pick apart or hear your psychology on what's the drive behind wanting to focus on the whole more than just the self.
There's a couple things here for me. It's a little bit hard because I think in some ways this is like asking a fish to see water because it's very much how I just operate. And I kind of always have been that collaborative person that loves to bring people together. The things that I've done to make myself a better team player have specifically related to collaboration are when I was leading a team, for example, even as the leader of the team, I didn't see myself just as above, but still in the game with them. And in together, we're achieving this goal. And so kicking off a meeting, for example, with my team would look something like this. Here's the outcome that we're trying to achieve. And the goal of this meeting is ideation, and it's coming up with the best ideas and strategies specifically that we can come up with together. And so I might kick off or lead it with my idea, but the framing of that was, here is my idea.
Yep.
A bad meeting, honestly, or like a kind of a disappointing meeting for me would be if we leave with my idea. So my goal is that in sharing my idea or thoughts, this is just one idea, but I want us together to come up with a better idea than this idea. And if we can continue to, push the envelope and really creatively evolve this into the best thinking of all of us, then we will have a really solid strategy. And I think what's critical about that was, and honestly, what felt really good about it was, I didn't want to be the smartest person in the room, right? I never want to, like, I want a team around me that's going to challenge each other and encourage each other and demand the best from each other. And so coming in with no ego and just asking, like, let's together make this happen and come up with a winning strategy, right? And so I think that's one way that I personally have taken the natural collaboration gene or whatever it is, that I love getting people together and challenge them to say, this is my idea. And I know that I am capable of coming up with great ideas, but I also know, like, as a personal, like, no, I know I do come up with pretty great ideas. And if my idea is the best idea, I might have the wrong people around me. I need people to make sure that they're in it and going to collaborate and challenge and push each other to think even more creatively, more innovatively, and really support each other. And what is our best, most creative thinking that we can do to achieve this goal together? Right.
Yeah.
And I felt like when we can come out of that meeting, having all contributed and really pushed our creative thinking and planning, then that was a successful meeting. And so that was also the culture and standard that I had with my teams always. So they knew that no one was sitting on the bench. No one was on the sidelines just watching and waiting and just being, letting things unfold. Like, we are actively involved. And when you create a space that is safe and there are no bad ideas and we're just there to push and challenge and create and co-create and collaborate, then I've seen that really magical things happen, some really brilliant strategy. And it also
Yeah.
creates this culture in a team where they feel like they're able to open and be open with their ideas and collaborate. And that's welcomed. And it's frankly, it's like championed. It's really important in the culture that I led my teams with. So
Yeah.
I hope
I
that.
think something that's important is everyone has a different level of willingness to share or to step in or to pipe up and speak their ideas. And so the concept of, I always look at, if you're wanting a team to collaborate, you're wanting more people to speak up, you have to invite them into it, not expecting them to have the greatest solution is the first idea, but to warm up. You can ask questions to make it smaller, like, what's one thing, one small thing you think that could help this improve? What's one little adjustment you might make? You can start by asking for small or little things where they're like, well, that might make a difference. You're like, that could make a difference. What else? And by easing them into it, some people are great at this. They walk in and they're like, oh, I've got 50 ideas. I've been thinking about this for months. You do this, and this. Other people, they're focused on other projects. They're focused on other priorities and tasks they've been assigned. Now they're being invited into the environment. And so we got to think we can ease them into it. We can create a little momentum in the beginning. Something you said that I really love is you came with the starting point. Here's the idea I have, starting point. Now, what I would love is, and then you ask for clear and specific participation. What I would love is, can you help me with this piece of it? Ideally, we could take that and make it into something much better. What small thing do you think might help that move forward? One of the other things that I've seen that really does help, you mentioned the word standard, bringing the standard of, we'll accept anything, just not nothing.
Yeah.
And so when we reach out and say, what's one small thing you think that can make it better? I'll accept anything. You can say, paint it purple, try doubling it, do twice as much. Anything is welcome, just not, I don't know, I'm not sure. Skip, pass, not okay. You have to contribute something.
Yeah.
And we're open to anything, and you can throw it out there. What it happens is, creative writing teacher taught me this. Oftentimes with writer's block, we sit down and we have a pencil and paper and we go, I just don't know what to write. Photography classes has proven, they cut the class in half and they said, one group is your assignment to get an A in this class. You have to go out and take one perfect picture. That's it. All semester, you have to get one perfect picture. The other half of the group, they said, in order to get an A, you have to take at least 2,000 plus pictures. Then they took at the end and they compared the best quality picture from each group, and the group who took thousands of pictures landed up with better pictures than the group who is trying to get just the perfect one. And so that same concept applies when you have a team engaging in this activity of coming up with solutions. you can use that story real quick to say, hey, we're not trying to get one perfect solution. We're trying to get as many solutions as possible first to get them all on the board. Then we'll take time to sift through and kind of upvote the ones that we think have the biggest potential, and then narrow down to a very specific action we can then move on as a group. And you're great at that. But just to reiterate the steps, starting point, you gave a starting point. You had clear and specific instructions of how specifically we're trying to improve this. And then we enter kind of this open forum where we'll accept anything, just not nothing. So you have to start throwing ideas on the board, and everyone throws as many as fast as they can. And then we take it and we start to upvote to find out which ones have the biggest and best potential. And that's a way to ignite people into that teamwork and out of that individualistic thought process.
Yeah, I would say a couple parts that are important are, one, the invitation, right? The setting the standard for what this meeting is, as well as creating trust. Like if your team doesn't feel that they can trust to share openly and that there's no such thing as a bad idea, we just want ideas. And then I also add something that's important is to get the team prepared for that meeting in advance, because some people are really great with on the spot thinking and creativity, and other people need some more runway and some time to really think through these ideas. So it definitely helps to give some runway before a meeting like that, if possible. It's not always possible, but if it's possible, give them a heads up, or have some kind of exercise that gets them into that state of mind and that kind of thinking. Because like what you said, depending on what they were coming from prior, it might be really hard for them to switch gears and just and come up with creative ideas. With that, I would say, share something. And if you do need, if time allows and you do need a little bit of time, because again, some people need a little bit of space, we call it thinking time, to think, then let them do that, because truly their strength might be in that creative space and thinking time to come up with their best ideas. And again, we're not looking for it doesn't have to be perfect and it doesn't have to be your very best. It's just the idea. What's beautiful about this is that every single person has different strengths. And by opening a space that allows everyone to show up with their unique strengths, you're able to get the best from everyone naturally, because by default, they're going to think with their strengths. Like that's what we do if we give them the space to be able to do that. And so that's really part of it too, is knowing I know my strengths, but also I've assembled a team around me that not only supports them, but also they have their own complementary strengths, right? Where their strengths might not be mine and mine might not be theirs, but together we're able to really evolve ideas and strategies and come out with our very best thinking, combining all of our superpowers or strengths together, right? So it was really beneficial. It's one of my favorite type of meetings. And again, I will say the most important part was getting clarity on what is our outcome. So if we're climbing a mountain together, I know, okay, this is the mountain we're climbing and here's where the peak is. I have an idea for how to get to the top. However, that doesn't mean it's the best thinking and that's the best route. I want us to all creatively think together, because some people are going to be, again, they're going to have different strengths. So they're going to start to think of different things to include in a route or a way to get to the top. And then we start to see all these different options. Now, as the leader of the team, it is important that you are the one that makes the decision, right? I'm not, in some teams, maybe you take a vote if that works. Ultimately, it is on the leader to, like, their neck is on the line, so to speak, to like make sure this strategy works. But what's beautiful is that, a great leader understands if it fails, it's on them. And if we win, it's all of our wins. It's not just the leaders. And so that's something too that is important, that you're able to collaborate. But if you, in doing so, you truly have created a team around you that their strengths, their genius, and together you truly believe that you can come up with the best idea or strategy for the way forward.
I love it. Two other pieces that we look for in a team player. Number one, in the category of feedback and growth, Team player views feedback as a tool for personal and team growth. They have a growth mindset, so they see feedback as a way to improve. They're open to giving and receiving constructive criticism, understanding that it helps everyone improve and succeed. A self-focused individual may resist feedback or take it personally because their primary concern is maintaining their image or status. They might give feedback only when it serves their interest or highlights their superiority. Something to think about, and this was from a Harvard Business Review article. They found that high-performing teams are more authentic. Team members express a wide range of emotions, even negative ones, without suppression. The authenticity means they can use their cognitive resources for doing the work instead of hiding or manipulating their emotions. I thought that was wildly fascinating. So they're willing to actually express all of how they feel so that they don't waste time bottling it up and pretending like everything's fine when it's not. Instead, they get the emotion out of the way and they use all their cognitive capacity to go get the project done. I thought that was a very interesting piece of feedback. So feedback and growth, the big part here, I'll throw it up on the screen, is they view there I am. They view feedback as a tool for personal growth. They're opening to giving and receiving constructive criticism, and they understand that it helps everyone involved. The third piece is communication. Communication and support. Team player communicates openly and supports teammates, understanding that transparency and support are key to overcoming challenges and achieving goals. They listen actively to make sure to ensure everyone feels included and valued. This is really important. That phrase where there's no such thing as a bad idea. Like they actually behave. They actually behave that way, where they communicate openly, support teammates, and understand transparency and support are key. And they listen actively to make efforts to ensure everyone feels included. This is an interesting fact. When it came to high-performing teams, they're not afraid to pick up the phone. High-performance teams communicate more often and prefer phone calls. This helps prevent misunderstandings and strengthens relationships. In fact, they're 66% more likely to hop on the phone than an average performing team. Meaning, because they know communication is key, they're not willing to let oopses happen. They're willing to pick up the phone, have a quick call. Pick up the phone, have a quick call. Better than sending a text or sending an email that can possibly be misunderstood and cause conflict, which is now derailing or slowing down the performance. They realize that a quick conversation is more useful to keep performance maintained at a high level.
To add to that, not being afraid to ask questions. Sometimes people are afraid to ask questions because, again, they're worried about how they might appear, or if it's a stupid question, or they'll sound dumb, or just that kind of like judgment they are fearful of. So a high performing team and a great leader will also create a safe space where ask questions, ask any questions, right? And so I've seen this best. There's someone I remember when I was doing an internship back in college. I was so amazed. I really was so inspired by this woman at the company that I was working at. She was fearless when it came to asking questions. And they would be sometimes the simplest questions, and she'd just raise her hand and ask. And I remember feeling like that contrast. And she was extremely successful, very well educated. And that was the moment for me that I really saw how powerful it is for someone to have complete confidence and in themselves to just ask a question and not be afraid of being judged about it, whether it's from your leaders or your reports or whoever it is around you. To not and what's beautiful too is she would ask questions that I didn't know, but I was too afraid to ask then. And I thought, whoa, gosh, thank you for asking that question. Now I know. And so now, whether it's, reminding yourself of as a leader to create that space with your team where they do feel safe and encouraged to ask questions, or it is being that person that is like actually the smartest and most successful people ask the most questions. How do you think that they learned all of this stuff, right? And so the other thing is being a source of confidence for other people, of not being afraid to ask, whether it's helping them answer questions they may have had, or just showing that it's okay to ask questions and inspiring others to do the same and creating, again, that culture. Because sometimes, I love that our mentor would say this. He's like, you could be running enthusiastically in the wrong direction. And so to ask, am I running in the right direction, is a great question to ask so that someone can help you redirect, right? Get clarity on the outcome or the scope of the project or whatever it is that you're going after together to make sure you can really perform. This morning, for example, I always feel so silly. I go to, I've worked out at this CrossFit gym. I'm not a big CrossFitter, but I love to work out. And so I've joined this gym again, and I push myself through this fear or nerves of like, oh, I don't know what a snap is or whatever it was. I don't even remember the name. And what's beautiful is everyone around seems to know what it is, and they don't ask questions. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to ask. Like, it feels really good to feel that fear and just step through it and just ask the question that may seem silly to others. But truthfully, it's not even a silly question. It's our ego that's telling us, like, worried about how you will appear. But again, it's creating that culture to ask, does anyone have any questions whatsoever? And then again, inviting people to ask questions. I think I've repeated that a couple times, but
You have. The key there is people who are afraid to ask questions generally are concerned in that moment, not completely, but in the moment with maintaining their image or status. They feel like their image or status will be dinged, or they'll be looked down upon, or they'll come across as not knowing or unintelligent. And in the truth, if you step into a lot of the corporate spaces, there's people who've been trained that you get rewarded, you get promoted by knowing the answer, by coming up with solutions, by not looking silly, and I've watched people who absolutely do not know what the hell they're doing pretend like they do just because they're in a role that's supposed to be leadership. Yes. Versus creating space where you're like, hey, I have no clue how we're going to do this. I need every single one of you to chip in so we can actually get to this outcome. When you can create an environment where you're transparent, you're authentic, you're real, and teamwork, to understand the concept, a team is when people depend on each other for the result to actually happen. If you don't depend, and so there's a whole culture of people who are taught, never depend on anybody, be self-sufficient, figure it out yourself. That's not a team. That's an individualistic, focused human being. A team says, I need you for this to work. And so if you want to create a team, you have to depend on each other. Anyways, you got to jump to go do a training. I think this was wonderful. If you need help with team training, reach out to us. We're both getting certified as team coaches. We've been training teams for many, many years. We'd love to assist you in creating a more cohesive team environment for your organization. Anyways, all you got to do, if you want to take that quiz one more time, DM me team quiz?
Team player quiz.
Team player quiz. And we will send you a link so you can find out if you're more of a team player or more individualist.